Sapiens. Before I wrote this book, I spent years trying to understand one question. That never stopped following me. How did humans, small and fragile, become the rulers of this planet? We weren't the strongest. We weren't the fastest. We weren't even the smartest in the way we normally think. A tiger is stronger. An eagle sees farther. A dolphin communicates more beautifully. And yet, somehow, we ended up controlling the destiny of every species on Earth. So, I began searching for the story behind this miracle. Not the story we learn in school. Not the one written in old textbooks. But the story behind the story. The invisible forces that shaped who we are. And the hidden mistakes that shaped our world. And slowly, I began to see something surprising. Humans didn't rise because of muscles or weapons. We rose because of something much stranger. Something quiet. Something living deep inside the human mind. A power that allowed us to imagine things that did not exist. A power no other animal had. A power that changed everything. It began around 70,000 years ago. A moment I call the cognitive revolution. A moment when something in our brains changed. And suddenly, we could believe in stories. Not bedtime stories, but shared stories. Stories hundreds, thousands, even millions of people could agree on. A story like, "This land belongs to us." "This symbol is sacred." "This man is our king." "This piece of paper has value." A chimpanzee could never believe these things. A lion could never build a nation. A whale could never create a religion. But humans, we became masters of imagination. And imagination became our superpower. The truth is simple. We rule the world. Because we can cooperate through shared beliefs. Money is a story. Countries are stories. Companies are stories. Human rights, also a story. Not fake, but invented, agreed upon. Maintained in the human mind. And because we believed together, we could build things no animal could ever dream of. But that was only the beginning. After learning to imagine, humans learned to control food. We call this the agricultural revolution. But the secret hidden inside this revolution is that humans didn't control wheat. Wheat controlled humans. We didn't domesticate wheat. Wheat domesticated us. We started working longer hours, bent over fields under the burning sun. We built permanent homes to protect the crops. We lived in crowded villages and built walls and fences. We stored food. We defended it. We fought for it. Our bodies became weaker. Our diets became worse. Our lives became harder. We traded the freedom of hunting for the prison of farming. But farming created one thing hunting never did. A huge amount of food. More food meant more people. More people meant bigger groups. And bigger groups could survive only by believing in the same stories. humans learn to create bigger worlds. Empires, religions, currencies. Not because these things exist physically, but because humans agreed to believe in them. This ability to believe together is the strongest force in history. It can build cities. It can start wars. It can change nations. It can create miracles. But it can also create disasters. And then came the scientific revolution. Perhaps the most powerful shift of all. For the first time, humans looked at the world and whispered a truth they had always avoided. Maybe we're wrong. That moment of humility changed the course of history. Because when humans began to accept uncertainty, we also began to seek truth. We learned to experiment, to question, to measure, to look at the world with curiosity instead of fear. This small shift created medicine, electricity, engines, airplanes, computers, and now artificial intelligence. But with all this power came an even bigger question. Are we wise enough to control the world we created? And that's where the human story becomes complicated. We became masters of the earth, but not masters of ourselves. We conquered nature, but we couldn't conquer our desires. We built cities, but we couldn't build inner peace. We created abundance, but we still feel empty. And so this book became not just a history, but a mirror. A way to see ourselves clearly, without illusions, without excuses. It is the story of our rise, our mistakes, our imagination, our power, and our confusion. It is the story of Homo sapiens, the only animal that can imagine a future and destroy it at the same time. And the more I studied our past, the more I realized something uncomfortable. Humans are not living in the world they evolved for. For more than 2 million years, humans lived as hunter-gatherers. Moving lightly, sleeping under the stars. Eating hundreds of natural foods. Living in small groups. Connected to nature and to each other. That world shaped our bodies. It shaped our minds. It shaped our emotions. But almost overnight, in evolutionary terms, we changed everything. We closed ourselves in houses. We filled our days with screens. We created jobs that stress our minds and weaken our bodies. We live in a world built by our imagination, not our biology. And deep inside, our ancient brains are confused. We crave connection, but we live isolated. We crave meaning, but we drown in information. We crave movement, but we sit for hours. We crave nature, but live surrounded by concrete. So, even though we are smarter, richer, and safer than ever, our hearts sometimes feel lost. This is not a personal failure. This is the tension of being human in the modern age. A species that evolved for one world, but lives in another. But this tension also means we can choose how to grow, how to change, and what kind of future we want to build. Because the final chapters of human history have not been written yet. We are still inventing ourselves. Every generation creates new stories. Stories about freedom, identity, technology, equality, and the purpose of life. Some of these stories unite us. Some divide us. Some liberate us. Some trap us. That is why understanding our past is not about nostalgia. It is about power. If you understand where humans come from, you understand where humans can go. And that brings us to the most important idea in this book. Homo sapiens dominate the planet, not because we are strong, but because we can cooperate flexibly in large numbers, not rigid like ants, not limited like wolves. Humans cooperate through imagination. That is our superpower and our greatest danger. Because the same imagination that builds nations can also build discrimination. The same imagination that creates money can also create inequality. The same imagination that builds religions can also create wars. The same imagination that builds science can also create weapons that end the world. Our stories give us power, but we must choose them carefully. And now, for the first time in history, we hold the power to redesign life itself. With genetic engineering, we can rewrite DNA. With biotechnology, we can build new kinds of organisms. With artificial intelligence, we can create minds that learn faster than ours. With neuroscience, we can edit emotions. memories, and personalities. For the first time, we are becoming gods. With the power to create, destroy, and shape the future of life. But here is the question that keeps me awake at night. Are we wise enough to become the gods we are creating? Humans made fire and then struggled to control it. Humans invented nuclear power and then feared it. Humans created the internet and now drown in information. Every tool gives us power and responsibility. So the future of Homo sapiens will not depend on our strength or intelligence, but on our ability to understand ourselves. Because to know where we are going, we must know where we came from. Homo sapiens is not finished. We are still becoming. We are still writing our story. And the most powerful question of all is not who we were, but who we want to be next. The story of humanity is not a straight line. It is a wild, unpredictable path. Full of creativity, destruction, hope, and confusion. We are a species capable of extraordinary kindness and unimaginable cruelty. We can build skyscrapers and break hearts. We can heal diseases and create new ones. We can travel into space. But still fail to help our neighbors. Humans are full of opposites. Good and bad. Smart and careless. Gentle and strong. But we are also capable of change. Deep change, collective change. If there is one message I want you to remember from this book, it is this: Human beings became powerful, not because we are perfect, but because we can choose new stories to believe in. The future of our species will be shaped by the stories we tell ourselves now. Stories about money, about freedom, about technology, about identity, about what matters. This book is not only about the past. It is also about the future. Your future, our future, the future we create together. And as I look back at the long journey, from apes on the savannah to dreamers in the digital age, I see one truth more clearly than ever. Homo sapiens is the animal that imagines and becomes what it imagines. Our story is not over. It is just beginning.
If you want to understand why we think the way we do and why we make the choices we make, join me in the next video, The Art of Thinking Clearly.